Welcome to CGTN's live stream. My name is Jiaxin.
And I'm Jiaxin. We're now at Tegucigalpa, the capital city of Honduras. So Jiaxin, tell us why we have this Simon here in the capital city of Honduras.
Yes, so we just witnessed this splendid sunrise. I know you have all seen it. Right now it's very early in Honduras morning.
Local time actually 6:17,
20,
something like that.
Yeah, but Beijing is at exactly the other side of the globe.
14 hours ahead.
Yeah, sure. I suppose it's like 8 p.m. right now. Yeah.
8:16. So the reason why we're here is because last month in March, the two countries just established diplomatic ties, which we saw the two foreign ministers in Beijing sign the joint statement. That was a historical moment, not only for Beijing, also for Tegucigalpa. And we also had the opportunity together to visit the presidential palace the other day.
Yes,
and sit down, talk with the foreign minister at Reina.
Yeah.
So you were still there, and what was your
first impressions of the presidential hall?
I know that you took some pictures there. Which are beautiful.
Yeah, actually, I didn't expect that we can enter this presidential hall. It's such an important place and very high level, but I can feel that the enthusiasm of the local people, right? They let us in, they welcome us and show us all the way around, and we even took a little tour in the presidential hall. It's lovely, but very, it's like a diplomatic important landmark of the city.
Yes, so Reina, actually, it was the first time for us to meet him in person. The CGTN previously talked to the foreign minister in Beijing.
Yep.
But actually, given his...
We traveled all the way here to talk to Foreign Minister Reina. We traveled nearly 30 hours of flight.
So, of course, he had a tight schedule. Before our interview, actually, he had the meeting with the president, Xiomara Castillo.
Yeah.
So we wait for him not that much longer, but actually we sat down and talked about, the bilateral relations. What impressed me most is that Reina was talking about China influence here, because I asked him, do you think or do you agree that Washington sees China's Latin expansion as influence? So he said that China influence should be in a positive way sometimes, because this is reality, and the bilateral ties between China and Honduras should be beyond the geopolitical, ideological, and political vision. So that's what China has been advocating, because China or some other developing countries also see America's Cold War mentality is actually undermining the global government. So that's the very important that I learned from his interview. And what is your takeaway from this?
Well, actually, I see that Reina is very friendly with us, Mr. Reina, and he talked a lot about his focus in bilateral trade, as well as how these diplomatic ties will reshape the financial ties between the two countries.
Yes.
Even before this important decision, China and Honduras had these bilateral ties with $1.6 billion last year. So that's quite tremendous. And actually, China has brought tremendously to this continent, to the Latin continent. And since 2017, we know that many Latin countries have already established diplomatic ties with China. So that's a major step.
Yes.
Well,
so talking about trade, I know that you do a story about banana, and you can share us with a little bit about what's behind that story.
Oh, sure, yes. I'm kind of interested into this agricultural sector in the country right now.
Why you're so interested? Before that,
because the country, because the country is relying heavily on its agricultural export. Coffee and banana, two major products of its exports, and it's kind of a backbone, economic backbone of the country. So we pitched a banana story, and the banana plantations are largely based in its northern part. So we traveled 4 hours from its capital, Tegucigalpa, and then to this large areas of plantations, which is about 45 minutes away from its second largest city, San Pedro Sula. This country is famous for its bananas, not just because of its quality, but because of a term of banana republic. Because earlier in the 19th century, the country gave the land and large exemptions to U.S. fruit companies and giants in exchange for the development of its north region. But sadly, its locals said that American companies have taken the vast majority of its profits from the export. So as we know from this plantation in the north region, one box of 42 pounds, which is roughly 20 kilograms of bananas, costs only $6 when it's exporting. But when it reached the American market, it was sold at over 100 US, like 20 times more expensive.
Yeah. So when you went to the site, what is the real situation? What did those farmers say about their current situation? Is their income stable, or because I know we just enter into the phase of post-pandemic, so agriculture aspects could be, some of the among most of the impact sectors. But what about them?
Sure, I got your point. So I also asked the harvester there, and they are actually they are satisfied with their life because the plantation we visited has this operation and management belonging to locals. So that's a major step, ahead, because if the United States companies owns this land, they will just take like the vast majority of the profits without giving any of them to the managing companies, right? Because they are managing this whole business. But now they are trying to selling some of the management to locals and let them run their own plantations and hire workers. So they give workers, more fair incomes based on their workloads. So if you chop more bananas, you got more paid.
Sure.
Yeah, basically one worker is paid roughly like 10 to 15 US dollars per day. It depends. And the whole plantation has hired over 600 of them.
So does Honduras have any banana export to China now? And it has the volume?
Yes, so I also get to know that a little bit. This country has exported the vast majority of its bananas to U.S. market and the European market, including Russia and Ukraine, which is the place we both went to.
We were assigned to do the reportings last year. So what about China?
They said China mostly imported bananas maybe from Asia. Yeah, but they are seeking more opportunities. They're opening to the whole world. They're trying to find markets other than the United States and the vast majority of the European countries.
Okay, so we were expecting there could be a growing volume of the trading partnership in this regard. So when we talked to Prime Minister Arena, he also talked about the bilateral cooperation in terms of the infrastructure, which is highlighted actually in this regard. So he referred to Patuca 3, which is also in decades the largest infrastructure in the country. It was a long journey actually. The other day we went to the side of the dam. It took us more than expected, because we expected that it could just take 5 hours. Yeah. But then we encountered a flat more than 6 hours, I guess.
So because of the roads were.
Yes. Actually, as Jiaxin mentioned,
both of us are Jiaxin.
Yes, as Jiaxin mentioned, this country actually is mainly the geographically mountainous areas,
Sure.
as you can see in this city. Because this scene actually reminds me of what I experienced last year in Kabul. Because Kabul city was actually surrounded like three sides of the mountain area. So anyway, we went to the side. Mostly we had the roads, we had the public roads, but we also had the gravel roads where actually we have the bumping road. We had the bumpy road. So the locals told us that it could be very often that you have the flat tire. So yeah, we didn't escape, and we had that kind of accident. So we paused for a while.
How did you solve the problem?
Well, they had the backup, so we changed that. But the thing is that we found it that maybe the fixation in the very beginning was not quite good.
Right.
So when we came back to Tegucigalpa, we found that the screws were loosened, and then we got another accident, and the tire ran away during our trip. So we actually also delayed the trip back to. But anyway, the stories that we developed there was very interesting because we just witnessed like 7 years ago, back in 2015, China initiated this cooperation, infrastructure cooperation with Honduras. And the engineer, one of the engineers there told us that it was also initiated by one of the leaders that Honduras government requested to China. Because back then it was, the two countries still hasn't yet established diplomatic ties, but given the infrastructure weakness here in the country, so we saw that later coming to Beijing. And then under the framework of Belt and Road Initiative and also Chinese ideas and concept of building a community for being kind, so China financed its first project in a partner country which was not in diplomatic ties with China. Then the project started in 2015, and now it's operating. It's been 2 years, and everything has been quite good.
Sure, just as we're talking about the infrastructure, I'm sure you can see this landscape, this marvelous landscape of Tegucigalpa. This place, this whole country is built on a mountainous area, as you can see. And in our, right now in the picture is I believe it's the residential places.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the geographic characteristics has actually limited the space. So that's the reason why we were very surprised that the capital city of Honduras
has no railway.
Has no railway, either the airport. So that's
right. The airport is a little bit far from the city center. Right?
So they had one, but it was small. I think mostly now it's been used by the government or the military. So that's the reason why we had to travel like 4.5. The second largest city, San Pedro Sula, to the capital city.
Yeah. Well, since you've mentioned San Pedro Sula, I can give you some like homework I did. Like this city is an industrial center of the country, and that's largely
Tegucigalpa in the center of the country.
Tegucigalpa is the largest one, but San Pedro Sula is the second largest one, but also the country's industrial center. But why the industrial center was not in its capital city? Because earlier there's a proposed rail line, constructed from its Caribbean coast to Tegucigalpa. But sadly, it ran out of funds when it reached San Pedro Sula, and that's why that city has developed into the second largest one, also an industrial one. Also, if you know, I'm not sure if you noticed, the industrialization here has a lot of room to improve, right? As we we can also see the helicopter right here.
I think it's holding something.
It happens a lot recently.
Well, talking about this actually, these days, before our visiting here to the country, as you said, homework, comes to the security issues. I know that you also did some homework.
Yeah.
So what about expanding some knowledge to our audiences that how secure or insecure this country is or the city is? Because so far, so good.
We're
right?
all safe and sound.
But what about the real situation according to data?
Sure.
If you have any idea.
Sure. So when it addressed to the security issue, that's the most important part, right? Before we came to this place, I received a reminder from many friends, just be careful, it's not so safe up there. So I really want to hit the road and ask the people if they also felt safe.
Secure.
Felt secure here, living even in its capital city. So actually, I've heard a lot of voices, but most of them say they have no sense of security right now. That's why they are not going outdoors after 6 p.m. every day. Yeah. So yesterday we also went to this
Chinese restaurant.
Chinese restaurant, and also some other.
By the way, we have several Chinese restaurants here actually.
Yeah, right.
So even before we had, because So,
right, and they are all waving hands inside their home, behind their door, instead of opening the door and wave hands with us. So they're quite they have the sense of insecurity. And I also asked a policeman over there in the Central Park, and the policeman said the reason why he thought this country has lack this security is that thank you, Zhou. Is that the people's education over here is quite limited. That's why a lot of students or families will seek opportunities abroad. And according to the UN data, this country's net migration rate has been negative since 1952. That means the country has consistently had more people leaving the country than coming into over the past 70 years. We can definitely see the problems in this country.
That situation also reminds me of what's going on there in the U.S. I think in a country where the social insurance or the social equality and also education, if it is lacking that, I think this kind of crimes could be quite often. Back in the U.S., actually, the education system, the social insurance and distribution is also the problem. So this is the thing that I think the government should be addressing. But over the past decades, what I heard here is that the government is not actually doing enough to address that issues. But I mean, if there are the growing space for the economic growth and opportunities for jobs, market growth, I think that could be some potential factors actually aggregating this kind of better situation for that.
Sure. So that's why when I'm asking people on the streets, they say they're looking forward to China and Honduras bilateral relations. They hope that this diplomatic ties will somehow improve their living situations right now, because they need more jobs, better education, and better sense of security.
Even our fixer Claudia, she was working with the TV here, local TV here, or state TV actually. When we arrived at the airport of San Pedro Sula, on the way to Tegucigalpa, she shared with us actually the hope, not on behalf of her friends and colleagues, how much the Honduran people were looking forward to the bilateral China and Honduras, because this country desperately need jobs, opportunities to grow its either livelihood or the country's economy.
But of course, this country has a lot of advantages itself.
Exactly.
For example, its tourism, beautiful scenery, as you can see probably here. And
it's also rich in natural resources and neighbor resources, because that is
agricultural resources.
And that is one of the reasons why a Chinese company, the hydropower companies decided to come to the country, because I think there are two leading factors. One is that because the country is rich in natural resources, a neighbor, especially the young people. And second is because the government actually back then, years ago, had determination to change the situation in which actually the country is considered as one of the poorest country in Central America. So the combination, also the commitment, has been pushing this, cooperation with the outside world.
Yeah.
So, and at the end of the trip, actually, we also talked to one of the engineers, the Honduran engineer. He traveled to China a lot of times, and he hoped that he would have, after the pandemic, of course, he would have more chances with his colleagues travel to China to see what is now in China. So I think we are all expecting something good to happen.
Something positive.
Yeah, something good to
Right.
happen. Yeah.
Right. Well, yes, the city definitely have a lot of like challenges, but at the same time, challenges and opportunities coexist in this Central American country. As China and Honduras just established this diplomatic ties, it will sure pose more opportunities for investors to come to this country, for tourists to come to this country. And I'll ask you, I'll respond to your question of if it's secure to come to this country. I think if you go to like this major cities and main tourism parts of the country, if you obey the rules, like do not go outside like maybe after 8 p.m. at night, you're fine. We're staying in this very...
Well, actually, I think these countries have the similar situation because I went to Sao Paulo, Brazil. They have the different zones.
Okay.
So some zones,
Are
as
a little
our
bit
yes,
dangerous,
as our fixer Claudia told me that because I said we've been here for almost a week and we did not expect, or we did not experience those things that we expect, which is maybe the worst situation that could be a threat to our security. So she said that it is divided. So they have the different areas. So when you go to the safe areas, which is mostly the rich people live, where rich people live, so it could be safe.
Yeah.
But when you go to those kind of things, which I think we have the opportunity to experience in some other cities, so
Sure.
it could be dangerous.
Yeah,
So
it could be because the country's
be cautious.
murder rate is about,
Be cautious of where you are, and try to be seeing people around.
If you always look into the data, that frightens you definitely because
yeah.
the country's murder rate is among the top 5 in the world for like the past decade, and over half of its population is living under its poverty line. So it definitely poses some problems. That's worrisome, but in the meantime, you need to experience this place with your both eyes, with your own, with yourself, with your friends here. Yeah, I think that's important. You need to come to this place and experience it yourself.
Okay.
Yeah.
What stories else that you have been doing? I think coffee. I think you went to a coffee shop.
Right. So yesterday I went to a coffee
Because
shop.
you mentioned coffee is one of the major industrial
exports.
products.
Yeah, of this country, right?
Yes.
But since you've seen this mountainous area, it's very ideal for a coffee to grow up, for
Yes.
coffee beans to grow. Yeah, because the temperatures.
The temperature, as you say, yeah.
Yeah, is all right, and that makes the Honduran coffee the most famous one in the world. But anyway, other than that, there are a lot more to see, more to find, and more to know here in the place. And we have just decided to go back to China tomorrow. So we're gonna leave this capital city, which I really like it so much. We're gonna depart from
come
here
to revisit again.
San Pedro Sula. Yeah.
So yeah, it's a short stay. But what impressed me most is the people here, the Honduran people. As I said, we actually had an accident when we come back. So after half an hour of walking, we finally met a guy who actually fixed the motor bicycles.
Help, right?
So yeah, he was really helpful, and we also gave him the gift of CGTN's cap, which
Ooh,
our
nice.
cameraman
Nice.
wore. So
Yeah.
so people here are very hospitable, and well, that's the
That's
thing that
pretty
we
much,
that's
yeah.
the thing that we share together. So that's the reason why we think that this assignment for us is really a honor one, and we feel so privileged.
Yeah.
We of course hope to visit the country again. Of course, there are some other cities, but we
Yeah,
did not
sure.
have that much time.
Sure.
Yes.
So yeah, definitely it's a cherishable opportunity for us to come here, even though we've been through
It's
like
safe, I
nearly
think.
30 hours of flight, but it's
and it's
all
safe.
worth it.
I think it's
Yeah.
safe. So
Yeah.
so that will do for our live streaming here at the capital city of Honduras, and you can also replay our show on CGTN's social media, and let's see you in Beijing.
Yeah. Thank you so
Enjoy
much.
the view here.
Enjoy the view for the moment.